Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks very much for your patience today, and welcome to the Executive Subcommittee of Learning and Families 28th August. And once again, I apologise for the delay with the technology, and very much welcome our 4 head teachers here. Thanks very much for coming down, and thanks again for your patience. But given that we've started late, we'll horse on without any further ado, and I'm going to ask Danny the clerk if there's any apologies, please, or any declarations of interest for anybody after that. Danny.
Sorry. Yeah, hello everyone. No conveners, no apologies or substitutes, and if any members have got a declaration of interest, if they can pop it in the chat, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Danny. I don't see any declarations of interest at this point, so we'll move on to paper 3, which is just to agree the minute of the last Executive Subcommittee on the 15th of May 2023. Can elected members agree that, please?
Agreed.
Agreed.
Thank you very much. And moving on to the main business of the day, which is standards and quality in schools, learning communities and preschool centre education. I don't know, Sharon, if you're going to do a report, an introduction to the report, or are we just going to move on to Mrs. Robertson?
Just happy to do a brief introduction, convener, if that's all right. Can you hear me all right? Yeah.
Have we got Sharon?
Yes.
Can you not hear Sharon, John?
Your sound turned on, John.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. Sorry, Sharon. I don't know what's happening there. Can you say that again, please?
Yes, I was going to just do a brief introduction to the report. Thanks for that.
Thank you, Sharon. That's my sound working now, and you're absolutely right. I didn't have it on, so with apologies. If you could introduce this report, Sharon, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, convener. So this report is our usual report on the standards and quality of the inspections in Perth and Kinross ELC settings in schools since our last committee meeting on the 15th of May. So these are inspections by the Care Inspectorate on the daycare of children in ELC, and inspections by Education Scotland of schools and settings, and sometimes joint inspections. So section 4 of the report just details the details of how Care Inspectorate and Education Scotland conducted inspection activity. Section 5 of this report is the recently published inspection reports since the 15th of May. And as you say, convener, we have 4 head teachers with us today. We have Joanna Robertson, who's the head teacher of Rattray Primary School. We have Linda Rue, who's the head teacher of Invergowrie Primary School, Catherine Finlay, the head teacher of Ochtergaven Primary School, and Elaine Liney, who is the head teacher of Pitlochry High School. We do have the inspection reports of these schools, and we also have the quality improvement officers who support the schools in order to take committee members through the main actions of the schools since the inspection reports were published. This report also provides an overview and a summary of all of the Care Inspectorate reports that have been undertaken since the 15th of May. And once we've been through all the school inspections, then Annie Carr and I will take committee members through that piece of inspection activity as well. But if you're happy, convener, we'll just move to the first primary school inspection, and I would like to invite Joanna Robertson and Nick Thompson to introduce the report and to share their action plan.
Thanks, Sharon. Just before you do that, I see there's a question in the chat from Councillor Cuthbert on the report generally, which I'm happy to accept. And just before you ask your question, Dave, given that we're really late starting, and Mrs. Robertson, you're perfectly welcome to stay once you've done your bit about Rattray and then subsequently about Invergowrie. But if you do need to get away, given that we've started late, I'm sure would be happy for you to do that as well. So, Councillor Cuthbert, you have a question.
Yeah, thank you, convener. It's relating to 6.1.3 in the report on page 12. This is the summary of the secondary school QI gradings. What concerns me is that from these figures, it looks like 80% are below our target, which is good. And I just really wanted to sort of ask, is something being done? Because it looks like there's an issue with secondary schools where we're not achieving our own target. So I just wanted to know if something's being done about it.
No, thank you, Councillor Cuthbert. I mean, I'm sure Shannon will have something to say on it, but there's been a very small amount of inspection reports, which I think probably partly explains it. But Shannon, would you like to say something about that, please?
Convener, thank you. Yeah, Councillor Cuthbert, as Convener has said, we've had very few secondary school inspections since 2019. And we had a previous discussion at a previous committee about making a reasonable attempt at trying to look at our performance over time with so few inspections within secondary. As the report states, where we have a satisfactory report in any inspection, that is the benchmark that Education Scotland use in terms of no further action. And in general, all of our schools usually meet that. We have had 2 weak gradings in the past. Those weak gradings have been dealt with, in fact, and we presented updated and follow-through reports to this committee with follow-through investigations by Education Scotland and ourselves. And I would have to say that we had very positive reports from Education Scotland on the work that we had done with the school to bring those evaluations up to satisfactory.
Thank you, Sharon. And thanks for the question, Councillor Cuthbert. It's certainly something that we'll keep our eye on. But with your permission, and without further ado, Nick, if you want to do your bit now, please, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thanks, Convener. So I'm introducing Ratchy Primary School. Ratchy has 230 pupils. It also has a nursery early learning centre of 72. Joanna Robertson, the head teacher, was appointed as interim head teacher in August 2019 and then became the permanent head teacher in 2020. The Early Learning Centre were actually visited by Care Inspectorate in December 2022 and therefore they weren't included in the HMI visit. The HMI came to the primary school the week beginning Monday the 20th of February 2023. It was a full model inspection, so they looked at the 4 quality indicators. So I've got the really nice job of sharing the key findings and the strengths of the school. The evaluations that HMI awarded the school for leadership of change, they judged that was very good. For learning, teaching and assessment was judged as good. Ensuring wellbeing, equality and inclusion was also judged as good. And raising attainment and achievement also judged as good. There were quite a large number of key strengths identified in the report, and it covered actually everybody, all the stakeholders within the school. So key strengths that they highlighted, very well respected head teacher, who they saw of providing strong and supportive leadership to staff and the wider school community. They saw she was creating a strong culture for school improvement, which is both effective and sensitively led. They recognised the highly committed staff team that demonstrated leadership. They thought they worked well together and had a really strong understanding of the needs of the school community. They recognised the quality of learning and teaching that was having a positive impact on children's attainment. They saw staff providing opportunities for children to achieve, succeed and celebrate their success. They thought staff created an inclusive school that valued the contribution of all children. They recognise the children who succeed in making the school a place where their rights are respected. They thought the children worked well together and participated in school life to create a really positive change across the school. And finally, they recognised the school that meets the needs of young carers very well. They saw that was developing a positive school environment for young carers to learn, succeed and feel supported. And they saw that as improving outcomes for children and families. So I'd like to hand over to Joanna now, who will share with you the 2 identified areas for improvement and outline the steps that they've already taken to move that on.
Thank you. The 2 areas for improvement. The first one was to continue to develop approaches to assessment, which would support all staff to know how well children are progressing with their learning. So actions so far. So as part of our ongoing focus on moderation cycle, we will adapt and extend our current school approaches to assessment to ensure consistency across the school and classrooms. Our teaching staff will continue to be responsive to people's needs, adapting lessons and activities to meet the needs of individual learners and groups. We will make greater use of the national benchmarks for moderation and assessment in order to support teachers' professional judgment of progress towards and achievement of a level. And this year we'll have a greater focus on pupil voice in assessment. We will involve our learners more in the assessment of learning, giving them an active voice and role in decision making and setting of their next steps in their learning. We'll do this by reintroducing regular learner conversations and continuing our work on high quality feedback to ensure that the children understand what's expected of them, their strengths and the areas where they need to improve. We plan to revisit self and peer assessment strategies with all teaching staff, sharing good practice and providing opportunities for moderation across the school and the local management group. We will continue to use and adapt our school progression frameworks in literacy and numeracy, and when available we'll use PKC progression frameworks in other curricular areas too. We've already adapted our annual assessment calendar to ensure consistency of assessment approaches, and we're engaging in the Perth and Kinross assessment and moderation offer. We'll train and support teachers to plan opportunities to allow children to demonstrate breadth, challenge and application of their learning through the use of high quality assessments. And we will continue to use and adapt our range of assessment strategies to build up an accurate picture of children's strengths, gaps and areas for further development. We will also revisit questioning with our staff to ensure that we have high quality dialogue between them and our learners. We'll provide staff with resources and training to support teacher design of starter questions, in-depth questions and questions which promote higher order thinking skills. Our second area was to continue to focus on improving attainment for children, including those areas of literacy and stages of school affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So our actions here is we feel we know our school community well and we use all available data to ensure we find our gaps. When identified, we establish how to close these gaps with support from ourselves or partners. So we will continue to reflect on current data, making adaptations to our already good practice to ensure that we're always meeting the needs of our Rashtree community. We will ensure that equity of learning and experiences is always at the forefront of the decisions we make. We will work with parents and families in a sensitive manner to ensure equity of experience for all, using Pupil Equity Fund money to support. We have a good understanding of the social and economic context of our children and families, including increased hardship and the impact of COVID-19 and financial pressures. We will continue to accurately pinpoint features of attainment negatively impacted by the pandemic and poverty. We have highlighted children's attainment at first level and writing across the school, and we're engaging with the 2-year Top for Writing programme, which is already having an impact on literacy attainment. And this session will participate in the National Improving Writing programme, which targets P4 and P5 stages. We'll use Pupil Equity funding to further support universal and individual literacy interventions and upskill new and existing staff in areas of literacy. This year, staff and nursery staff have had word aware training, which will be a feature of our school improvement plan in this school year too. We will continue to track progress and target support for identified cohorts. These include tracking gender, SIMD, ACORN, ASN and young carers. As a result, we will continue to identify children who are not making adequate progress or those facing disadvantage and initiate appropriate interventions and additional support. We already track the progress of individual learners well and identify potential barriers to learning quickly. So we will continue to have termly planning and tracking meetings with teachers, which will review pupil progress and identify further interventions required for children. We'll use well-informed data to support these discussions. We will continue to upskill our support staff, provide strong assistance and implement interventions which address additional support needs of individual learners. Staff across our early level in school are taking forward and developing play pedagogy positively, and all staff are trained in play pedagogy, and some staff are undertaking external accreditation. And we will expand learning through play approaches into our older classrooms too. We will continue to offer effective and targeted approaches for children relating to resilience, regulating their own emotions and disengagement from learning, using pupil equity funding and community partners. We're also considering ways to expand the use of our school grounds and local area to support the development of outdoor learning. Our attendance is below the local and national average, and we will continue to to use regular senior leadership team attendance check-ins, working closely with our community partners and families to improve the attendance of a few children with significant absences. And lastly, we'll participate in the Perth and Kinross Council Nurturing School programmes, which will support our current systems and policies. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs Robertson. I'm going to ask elected members if they've any questions for either Nick or Mrs Robertson at this point, and then I'll ask for comments after. So any questions from elected members? I don't see any at this point, unless the technology is still not working. So if there's no questions, are there any comments from elected members, please? No, I don't see any comments either. Thank you very much for coming in. I would just like to say, and I'm hoping that Councillor Shires is fully available now, because I know that it's a school that's close to Councillor Shires' heart. But I would just quite like to say at this point that this is an excellent report. It's really appreciated, and for all the good things in the report, the one thing that I kind of took from it, amongst many things, was the way that you're able to support young carers. And we had a paper last week at Lennon and Families about how important it is to support young carers so that their education's not impeded in any way. And there's certainly, it feels to me like there's a lot in this report that we can learn from as a council. So thanks very much for that. Caroline, I think you have a comment. It's coming through in Councillor Kigalis, but I think you have a comment, Councillor Shires, please.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, excellent. I'm only a little bit stressed here. I had a couple of questions, but I'll just roll them into comments anyway. A couple of points. Firstly, that I understood that the inspections took place on some of the time around the strike, so that must have been a particularly challenging time for the school. So that was very much taken into account. The work that's been done declaring an interest in the School of Football and engaging youngsters is just a real credit to the school, and I would hope its practice has maybe been shared among, I know it's been shared in the LMG, but it could be something shared wider than that, because it really is an excellent piece of work. And the other comment that I wanted to make was about the role. And Mrs Robertson, you've been doing a really good job since you arrived at Rattray, but in particular it's the team Rattray approach, and that's been, it's really come to the fore, particularly post the pandemic, when you've done such a cracking job of getting all the children back into the school, but making sure that everybody from the staff in the school dining hall through to the office staff, the pupil support workers, everybody's just part of that team, and that obviously really came through in the inspection and is a credit to everybody at Rattray School. And as one of your local members, I really do appreciate all that you do, but actually as an example for other schools across Perth and Kinross, I think there's some really good pieces of work that we would love to see shared. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Shires. I know there wasn't a question in there, Mrs Robertson, but if there is anything you want to add to what you've already said, then feel free to do so now.
Thank you for pointing those out. Yeah, I think School of Football is an initiative that we've introduced in January, and it's targeting children who could become disengaged from school. So it's very successful. It's part of a 2-year programme that we're working with, and predominantly targeting our P6 and P5 and P6 children as well, which seems to be working really well. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs Robertson. Like I say, if you're needing to get away, then feel free to do so. Thanks very much for coming down. Thanks for your time, and apologies once again for messing everybody about a little bit here with the technology. So thanks very much, and a great report. It's good to hear from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you again. Sharon, we're going to move on now. Do you have anything to say at this point before we move on to
No.
Invercargill? Okay, thank you. So we're going to introduce, I think it'll be
Anne Lemon, Quality
Anne.
Improvement
Is it you, Anne? Thank you very much, Anne. Go for it. Thank you.
Thank you, convener. The inspection of Invergowrie Primary took place in March 2023. This was a full inspection model with a focus on all 4 quality indicators, both within the early years and primary settings. At the time of the inspection, Linda was new to the school, having taken up post in August 2022. There were 30 children in the nursery and 166 children in the primary. A range of strengths were identified by the inspection team and areas for continued development were outlined. I'm going to firstly share the quality indicator evaluations with you. So in the primary stages, the leadership of change was satisfactory, the learning, teaching and assessment was satisfactory, ensuring well-being, equality and inclusion was good, raising attainment and achievement was good. In the nursery, leadership of change was very good, learning, teaching and assessment very good, ensuring well-being, equality and inclusion very good, and securing children's progress very good. I will now outline the key strengths that were identified during the inspection. The inspection team were very keen to convey to me how impressed they were with Linda and the work that she'd already undertaken since she'd taken up post in such a short time. They outlined that she's well respected and valued across the school and nursery community. She's made a very positive start to leading the school with a focus on how the school can improve. As a result, the staff team and community are invested in improving the work of the school. The nursery's very good practice was recognised, where practitioners in the nursery work well together to improve how they support children, and they undertake research and share this with each other very effectively. These approaches are shared and they've had a really positive impact on outcomes for children. Practitioners in the nursery work well to create stimulating surroundings in which children learn, and they provide children with learning activities that challenge them. They were very impressed with that and help them to learn through play. As a result, children make very good progress with their learning and development. They felt overall that children in the school were very polite, friendly, enthusiastic to learn. They were proud of their achievements and engaged well with their learning. And this is leading to children maintaining good levels of attainment. Staff across the school and nursery provide a caring and nurturing environment for children to learn in. They ensure the values of ready, respectful and safe are embedded in the life of the school. And as a result, relationships across the school community are positive, and this is supporting children to improve their well-being. I'm going to hand over to Linda now, who is going to outline the areas for development within the report and the actions that are being taken to address these. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Thank you. The following 3 areas for improvement were identified and discussed. Number 1, senior leaders should continue to improve their approaches to identifying how well the school and nursery are improving. This will help them check that changes made improve outcomes for all children. I have reviewed and developed more fully the strategic and operational remits of senior leaders. A more detailed quality assurance calendar is in place with a higher frequency of activities to measure and track the progress being made towards priorities in our quality improvement plan. Teachers leading initiatives have planned training opportunities and support to ensure they're clearer on the intended outcomes of these initiatives for children. Involving children in evaluating our work as a school community will be a focus. Pupil voice activities will be regularly planned for as part of the work of all of our development groups. Number 2, teachers should develop further their use of assessment to inform planning and provide increased levels of challenge with learning. This should support all children to make appropriate progress with their learning. So the action taken is Primary 1 staff are undertaking play pedagogy training and will work more closely with the nursery team to ensure we share best practice. All staff have started sessions of Inspiring Schools, improving assessment as part of learning and teaching training. And I'm working closely with teachers to improve assessment and moderation approaches as part of this work.
This will include the creation of a more detailed assessment calendar and expanding our use of high quality assessments. Training will also further develop staff skills and confidence in analysing assessment data. We will review our learning, teaching and assessment policy this session. And the third area was that staff should ensure that all children have opportunities to increase their participation in activities and the work of the school. And this will increase children's opportunity to develop further their skills for learning, life and work. Children will be meaningfully involved in changes and improvements linked to our staff development groups. We'll have digital leaders group, an eco schools group, reading schools ambassadors, rights respecting schools and our pupil council, all with a strong voice within the school. Opportunities to take the lead that all children have in nursery will extend into approaches in primary 1. Throughout the school, learners' voice activities are planned to ensure staff take account of children's views when planning learning experiences. Assemblies will involve children sharing learning. Open afternoons and curricular evenings will provide children and parents an opportunity to learn together. I will meet with learner focus groups to monitor impact of all of this work. The use of our new Learning Journal app will also track children's participation in activities, allowing for any gaps to be addressed, ensuring no child misses out. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Roux. Are there any questions for either Anne or Mrs. Roux from elected members, please? And if not, any comment? I'm not seeing any. I'm just going to give it another 30 seconds or so, but I'm not seeing any questions or comments. So I'll just thank you, Mrs. Roux, for your coming down today, and also your presentation in the school in the public meeting, which I attended, and it became very clear from the report that the nursery was excellent and that the primary school is also very good. But it was clear from that public meeting that the 1 or 2 areas of improvement, or 3 areas of improvement that were recommended, that you're well on your way to doing that. You've clearly got a well engaged parent council as well, which was nice to see. And even though I was only there for one visit, the polite and friendly nature of the pupils were apparent, and also the welcoming. I was made to feel very welcome, and there was certainly a sense of community there. In fact, I was nearly got an hour of martial arts when I was there, but it wasn't just because I was in a pair of dress trousers that I declined that gracefully, that opportunity. But the serious point to that was the school is clearly part of the community, and it's in a good place. So once again, thank you very much for coming down today. Thanks for your presentation, but more importantly, thanks for your continuing good work. And if you'd, at the same orators should have said, but if you'd like to take our thanks from elected members back to your staff teams, that would be really appreciated. And just like Mrs. Robertson, if you need to get away now, then feel free to do so, because we've kept you long enough with that delay at the start. But once again, thanks very much for your continuing good work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Linda.
Thank you. Thank you. When you're ready, Stuart, I think you're up next, I think.
It's Ochtergaven next, convener. So I'm just moving to make way for Catherine Finlay.
Oh, thank you.
Who's the head teacher of Ochtergaven Primary. And Anne is also the Quality Improvement Officer for Ochtergaven, so she'll be able to introduce this report.
Thanks very much, Anne. I wasn't sure whether you had 2 or whether it was Stuart had 2, and my 50-50 guess went wrong there. So when you're ready, Anne, if you want to go for it, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you, convener. The inspection of Ochtergaven Primary School took place in April 2023, and this was a short inspection model with a focus within early years and primary on the 2 core quality indicators. There were just 2. At the time of the inspection, there were 20 children in the nursery and 137 children in the primary. Catherine is a well-established head teacher who's been in post at Ochtergaven for 7 years. And a range of strengths were identified by the inspection team and areas for continued development. I'm just going to share the quality the quality indicator evaluations first, before then sharing the key strengths. So the quality indicators for primary school evaluations for learning, teaching, assessment were satisfactory. Raising attainment and achievement were satisfactory. The quality indicators for the nursery class were learning and teaching assessment satisfactory, and securing children's progress satisfactory. The inspection team found the following strengths in the school's work. Across the school and nursery, children were friendly and enthusiastic and proud of their achievements, and they were very impressed with this. They benefit from the very positive relationships and the caring approach of all staff. The whole school community collaborate very well to foster a love of reading. The inspection team were impressed with approaches that were in place, where staff, children and families enjoyed sharing books and participating in reading challenges. Children play an important role in leading this area of school improvement. We're very, very pleased about that. Staff at early level provide high quality play experiences that encourage children to explore, discover and be creative. And this is supporting children to make good progress in their learning. I'm now going to hand over to Catherine, who's going to outline the areas for development within the report and the actions that have been taken to address these since the inspection. Thank you.
Thanks, Anne. Thank you. So there were three main areas for improvement as part of the report. The first point was that senior leaders and staff should develop consistently high quality approaches to learning and teaching, including increased opportunities for children to lead their own learning. We've planned a programme of collegiate working this year to ensure that agreed, shared approaches to quality learning and teaching are embedded in everybody's practice. This is from nursery right throughout the school. Our quality assurance calendars are in place, which include regular opportunities for class and early learning and childcare monitoring visits, and we have built-in opportunities for peer working and observations to ensure consistency of approaches to learning and teaching. With plans in place to collaboratively plan learning across levels to share best practice and to support staff to learn with and from one another. And teachers and our early childhood practitioners are engaged in comprehensive whole school numeracy training with PKC to learn consistent whole school approaches to learning and teaching in numeracy and creating a numeracy rich learning environment. Our second area for improvement was about staff improving how they demonstrate children's progress in their learning and around having clear measurable targets for any interventions that are planned for children. We've already begun this work on adapting our target setting for children with identified additional support needs. So staff develop confidence in setting measurable targets and understand what is needed to demonstrate children's progress effectively. And 3 teachers are doing some really intensive professional development this session on teaching writing at P4 and 5, which will then be cascaded to the rest of the school. Our third area for improvement, senior leaders should support staff to continue to develop a shared understanding of achievement of a level across curriculum for excellence, and staff should continue to raise attainment across the curriculum with a focus on talking and listening, writing and numeracy. Work has already begun on this, and we have been looking at how to improve pace and challenge across the school and to support staff to have a clear and sound understanding of achievement of a level within the curriculum. Plans are in place to moderate our planning and our understanding of achievement at a level and our assessment of pupils' progress. Some of this work will be Ochtergaven as a team, and some of the planned sessions are with colleagues across the Bertha Park local management group. And we have identified groups of learners and have clear measurable plans in place to support their progress in learning, and will continue to develop established tracking to ensure efficacy of any interventions that we have in place. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Finlay. Are there any questions and or comments for either Anne or Mrs Finlay from elected members, please. Again, I don't see any, so I think it just leaves me with saying thanks very much again for coming in. Apologies once again for the delay. Reading the report myself, it does strike me that sometimes the difference in time between the inspection and actually coming to this committee disadvantages you, because it feels, from what I understand, that you've gone from what was a decent, good place for the school anyway to resolving a lot of the improvements that you needed to make anyway, and that we're in an even better place now. I hope that's fair comment. So thanks very much again, just for your continuing good work. And if we've kept you long enough, apologies for the delay once again. If you need to get away, then feel free to do so. But really appreciate all your hard work and for coming down today. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Stuart and Lynn, do you want a spot in? Thank you. Just having Stuart and Mrs. Liney now.
Okay, no, yeah, no, I can see that. Thanks,
Yeah.
Sharon. When you're ready, Stuart, just go for it. Thank you.
Good afternoon, folks. I'm introducing Pitlochry High Schools today. So Pitlochry High School has a roll of 310 pupils. There are 193 children in the primary department and 117 young people in the secondary department. Pitlochry High School is an all-through school providing education for children and young people from nursery up until S4, when they leave and predominantly transfer to Breadalbin Academy. There are currently 38 children accessing the nursery. The head teacher, Mrs. Liney, has been in post since 2016. The school was visited by His Majesty's Inspectors of Education on the week beginning the 17th of April 2023. The Early Learning Centre was visited by the Care Inspectorate on the 14th and the 15th of November 22 and was therefore not part of this HMI inspection. I'll start, folks, by outlining the evaluations within the report for the 4 quality indicators, and it was a full model inspection. So leadership of change was judged to be satisfactory. Learning, teaching and assessment was judged to be satisfactory. Wellbeing, equality and inclusion was judged to be good. Raising attainment and achievement was also judged to be good. I would like to share with you the key strengths of Pitlochry High School's visit. The calm, positive and inclusive environment for learning. This is supported by senior leaders and all staff who provide a warm and caring ethos, shown clearly in the interactions between all members of the school community. Children and young people are polite and respectful. They enjoy being at the school and are attaining and achieving well. Thirdly, all staff's ongoing commitment to monitoring and evaluating the work of the school. This is improving learners' experiences across the school. And fourthly, the work of the whole school community to ensure children and young people are knowledgeable about their rights and the rights of others. I'll now hand over to Mrs. Liney, the head teacher, who will take you through the areas identified for improvement and how the school will take this forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Stuart. We had 4 actions for improvement. Action 1, continue with plans to involve the whole school community in refreshing the vision, values and aims at Pitlochry High School. We already have a strong ethos and values base. We now need to agree our shared language. Through our Rights Respecting School Award, our young people have further developed their pupil voice and will play an active part in this process. This is an excellent opportunity for us to work with our whole school community to articulate who we are and what we want for our young people. Parents and partners are keen to be involved in this process. This work has already started as planned with staff on the inset days, and the quality improvement plan has been shared with the pupils. We will work with pupils during assemblies, and our pupil council and rights respecting ambassadors will support this work. We will then involve parents, carers and our wider community using online forums and capturing feedback at parent council meetings. Our second action was senior leaders should continue to develop approaches to improvement planning. They should continue to work with all staff to develop a shared understanding of how they show the impact of their work in improving experiences for children and young people. We are continuing to work with each department to improve consistency of approach and to share good practice using our existing structures of weekly principal-teacher meetings and strategic departmental meetings. These are opportunities for staff to reflect on the interventions they have in place for our young people and share good practice with others. Building on last session, we will continue to develop a range of opportunities for capturing pupil voice and feedback on their learning to further evidence the impact of the work of each area of the school. Action point 3. Staff should continue to improve the consistency of high quality learning and teaching across the school. They should ensure appropriate tasks and activities are set at the right level of difficulty. As a school, we were already focused on our learning and teaching and had co-created What Makes a Good Lesson at Pitlochry High School in February 23. We had strong evidence from our own lesson observations that this focus on learning and teaching through continued professional learning was having a positive impact on improvement. Our own identified next steps were to continue to embed What Makes a Good Lesson at Pitlochry High School, as well as a focus on questioning and differentiation during this session. We have 2 planned professional learning opportunities for staff this term, with support from one of our education officers, and time will be ring-fenced on each school inset day to further develop and share good practice. We will continue to use our observation weeks and our big and little questions as an opportunity for learning and improvement. Action point 4. Staff should increase the pace of improvements in curriculum development. As part of this work, staff should ensure all children and young people can make continued progress in all areas of the curriculum. We had identified the need to focus on curriculum development with a particular focus on skills and wider opportunities. We want our curriculum in nursery, primary and secondary to reflect our context and our unique selling points in Pitlochry. We will continue to work with Breadalbane and UHI Perth as HPLP continues to support increased curricular choice. And we feel we're in a good position to do this as our refreshed school vision will be at the heart of all of our curriculum developments. Thank you.
Thanks, Mrs. Liney. Any questions and or comments for Mrs. Liney, please, from elected members? Councillor Barrett.
Sorry, just at the end there, what does HPLP stand for, please?
That's the Highland Perthshire Learning Partnership, where we work in conjunction with UHI Perth and with Breadalbane Academy to create opportunities in the curriculum that might not otherwise be there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Any more questions or comments for Mrs. Liney? No, I think we're good. Thanks for your hospitality on Thursday, Mrs. Liney, and hope chocolate biscuits are always welcome. Of course, don't tell Mrs. Revick that I had a couple. That would be the only thing. But I think the serious note is that I think what shone through was that it was a really good report, and the 1 or 2 improvements that you have to make were already ongoing. I think what struck me was that you and your team had identified where you were, and you had that basically confirmed by the inspection. So I think you already knew where you were and what you needed to do, and that you'd started to do that. And it's again, it's just a question of, without patronising anybody, it's just a question of keeping up the good work, I guess. Councillor Barrett touched upon Highland Perthshire Learning Partnership, and I know it's been very frustrating for us all that COVID has gotten in the way of a lot of the good work that we had started doing pre-COVID on that. I think that will be really important moving forward. Personally, and if there's anything that we can do as a council to help you on that, you know where to come. So once again, thank you very much for coming down. Apologies for the late delay, and thank you to you and your teams for the good work that you're doing. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We move on to Sharon. I know that the COPEC, the Goodleyburn Primary School, is the next bit on the agenda, and there's nobody here. Do you speak to that, Sharon?
Actually, we've got Annie Carr here,
Thank you.
convener, who's the Quality Improvement Officer for Early Years. So this section of the report is the Care Inspectorate inspections, the daycare of children, and Care Inspectorate do a lot of inspections, as committee members who are here on a regular basis know. There was a total of 13 inspections undertaken by the Care Inspectorate since our last committee meeting on the 15th of May. And as is our usual practice at this committee, we only make reference and give detail on any reports that require an exception. And you're quite right, convener, we have 3 reports for this committee to be reporting as an exception where any gradings have been an evaluation of unsatisfactory, weak or excellent. We did have a weak grading in relation to Goodleyburn in the City of Perth Childhood Centre, which was inspected in March 2023. And that inspection was awarded 1 week quality grading for how good is our setting. The members will be aware that the COPEC, the City of Childhood Perth Centre, was flooded some years ago, and there was a move of that nursery to the Perth Grammar Wing for a short period of time, and then we moved the nursery up into Goodleyburn Nursery, and Care Inspectorate gave us a temporary registration for the nursery to move in there. And this was the first time following COVID that inspection teams were able to visit the nursery, and they did raise some concerns about the quality of the toilet facilities within Goodleyburn, and that was the reason for the week evaluation. So Annie Carr, Quality Improvement Officer for Early Years, is here just to give an update on the actions that have been taken since that week grading was allocated to the nursery.
Thank you, Sharon, and apologies, Annie. I did know you were there, of course. We're all unsettled with being dispersed around the building, but so sorry about that. But go for it, Annie, please.
No problem, thank you. So as Sharon has rightly said, the grade of weak was given for the environment and for the toilet facilities. So we had been alerted about this situation by the centre leader prior to the time of the inspection, and had already instructed a property survey. So property had been out, there was a plan in place, actions were identified, but just not undertaken by the time of the inspection. So since this inspection, we have carried out work to ensure that all the requirements for the toilets have been actioned. And we've also had additional work instructed and completed during the summer to enhance this environment above and beyond those recommendations that were made by the Care Inspectorate. The additional work has provided a lunch and a family room to enhance that family support that Goodleyburn and COPEC are all about. There's a new kitchen area, and we've upgraded different sections that were highlighted in the report. And of course, those nursery toilets have been replaced. We've had some upgrades also to the school toilets.
Okay. Care Inspectorate.
So Care Inspectorate have not yet returned, but we do anticipate them coming within this term. I don't think they'll be too long.
Thank you, Annie. Any questions or comments from members, please? Councillor Barrett.
Thanks very much for the reassurance that the week evaluation has been attended to. I just wanted to check, because the adequate one and the requirements for that also show up in the report that we saw. On page 35, they highlighted that there should be steps taken to ensure that there's sufficient staffing, and that was to be done by the 1st of May. Can you just confirm that that's been tackled, please, or if there are any issues about that?
No, Councillor Barrett, I can confirm that we have looked at the staffing ratio, and despite the national recommendations for staff to child ratios being maintained at Copec and Goodleyburn at all times, it was the view of the inspectors on the day that due to the needs of the children and the physical layout of that building, additional staff should be in place. So we have funded this year additional staffing, which exceeds the national recommendations for the child to staff ratio, and this is having a really positive impact on the children.
That's great. Thank you very much. Thank you.
If I could just add a wee bit to that question, Councillor Barrett, because that one we did question with the Care Inspectorate, because not only were we over the ratios required by the Care Inspectorate, we also had 5 staff absences that day who were due to be in the nursery, and we were still over the ratios. So we felt that we actually did have adequate staffing on the books, if you like, but the Care Inspectorate insisted that we still had to have that written in the report, even though we did have a wee question for them about that. But just to reassure you that we absolutely do have more than adequate staffing in relation to Copec, but the environment continues to be a wee bit challenging in terms of free flow, and so we have recognised that, and we're continuing that increased level of staffing.
Thank you, Annie. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for the question, Councillor Barrett. I think from the point of view of the convener, I think it's important to recognise a couple of things, particularly as Goodleyburns in my ward and very close to where I live, and I'm very familiar with it. I think part of the issue around the week in terms of the building is that we had to shift Copec, as members may or may not know, because it was originally in Fairfield and it kept on getting flooding. And I think in defence of the early years team, I think there was a lot of pressure, appropriate pressure by local members, not least myself, to keep it local, because most of the families were local to that area, and it was quite right, therefore, that we put it into Goodleyburn Primary. However, that did leave a little bit, it was a little bit problematic in terms of the layout of the building, as Sharon says. So I think it's important that we recognise that there was good reasons why Copec ended up in Goodleyburn Primary, having had a short spell at the grammar school. But equally important to recognise that on every other measure, the inspection report was really good. The quality of care and the love and attention that the kids get there is absolutely outstanding, and I think it's important that we recognise that as well. So thank you. If there are no further questions or comments on that bit of the report, we will move on, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Convener. The next exception report we're bringing to committee today is the report on ABCD Nursery, which is a private provider that's in partnership with Perth and Kinross Council. The nursery was inspected in May 2023 and was awarded 1 week grading for how good is our care, play and learning, and 1 unsatisfactory grading for how good is our leadership. We had already been working quite extensively with ABC to support their improvement agenda. A new manager has been appointed, and obviously as an early years team are heavily involved with ABC Nursery, but again I'll pass to Annie Carr just to provide some information about the work that we are undertaking with that nursery. Annie.
Thank you, Shannon. So we did, as Shannon quite rightly said, begin quite a lot of work with ABC in November 2022 when we went to visit as part of one of our Term 1 to Term 2 regular visits to the setting, and unfortunately a series of circumstances led to work not being carried out by ourselves as a team until February 2023. This was in the form of a broad overview which looks at all different areas of the nursery, and it involved 5 members of the early years team who spent 3 days in the nursery doing a really detailed report. So following that broad overview, we put in a great deal of support and training that was identified and provided and had to be met at pace from both the management in ABC and the staff team. This included personal planning for children, quality assurance processes, administration of medicine, advisory nappy changing, enhancing their environment and high quality interactions. In the May inspection, similar themes that the early years team had identified were also those that were targeted by the Care Inspectorate. And as identified in the inspection report, despite a high level of support from our team, the pace of change in the setting had been too slow in responding to all of our recommendations. The management team were unable to drive the change required and maintain the standards within the nursery setting, and this was due to many staff changes and a high number of the staff team were leaving the service. So an example of where support had been provided but not actioned is the safe administration of medication as detailed in the report, and this took 2.5 months to be actioned despite ongoing discussions, offers of support and regular check-ins by our team and also our early years support teacher. Paperwork and procedures were highlighted regularly to management but had not been implemented by the time of inspection. At the feedback, the collaborative work between ourselves and the service was highlighted by the Care Inspectorate as positively contributing to the progress made across the different experiences for learning for children. And now, since that inspection, we have invited along the owner to a meeting where the requirements for continued partnership have been clearly outlined. The previous manager who was there at the inspection in May has resigned, and a new manager has been appointed by the owners and started on the 11th of August. We've put the setting on a now more formal service improvement plan with 3 monthly staged reviews led by myself. At the initial meeting, this was the required plan of timeline. However, the Care Inspectorate and one of the members of the early years team were in 2 weeks ago, and we have decided to make weekly check-ins to ensure that actions are all being met.
Thank you. Sorry, Annie, carry on.
The Care Inspectorate are due to come back any time after the 1st of September, so we're really working closely with them to make sure that all the requirements are being met for Friday.
Thank you, Annie. Any questions or comments from members, please? Councillor Barrett.
It sounds like a lot of challenges. Thank you for your report and updating us. How confident are you that you will meet all the deadlines that were due by the 1st of September, or they will meet all the deadlines?
We are still concerned about the setting. However, we've got members of our team in there this week, and although we're working with them, not doing to the team, and we're hopeful that by Friday all of these will be met.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Barrett. Thank you, Annie. Any more questions or comments? No. Okay, thank you. I think it's entirely appropriate that we expect the high standard of care from our partner providers that we do in our own nurseries, and so I guess it's watch this space. But thank you for your continued work on this one, Annie. Thank you. I think the last item on this particular report is around Inchiture Nursery.
Yep, so our Inchiture Nursery was inspected in March 2023 also, convener, and we did receive an excellent grading for the area of how good is our leadership, and that report is included as Appendix 7. And the Care Inspectorate noted the excellent and robust leadership which has inspired all of the staff, and suggested that this should be shared as good practice, and so therefore we felt it was important to note that within this report also.
Thank you, Sharon. Any questions or comments around Institute Nursery? Councillor Barrett with a comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to send thanks and congratulations to the team at Institute Primary School Nursery, getting an excellent score for leadership and very good in all the other evaluation criteria. Well done, everyone who achieved that. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Barrett. Caroline, you have a very legitimate question, please, you'd like to ask. All right.
Is that working now? I think it is.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it was an excellent, but it was just a question, Sharon, about how is that good practice then shared with other settings?
Yeah, we've got quite a good process in place within early years to do that. But Annie, do you want to just explain how that's done through the early years forum and the head teacher delivering sessions?
Yeah, thank you, Sharon. Yeah, what we do is we have once a term, we have development sessions that we run for head teachers and managers. And we have invited along the head teacher from Institute to come and talk through why she got her 6. We've also had some of her team coming along and sharing that with teachers and early years practitioners at a different level. And we've also got Jo Bell, who is the head teacher there, coming along to deliver a session on our ELC leadership programme, which is for head teachers and managers who want to further develop their leadership skills.
So we find a range of ways of doing that, Councillor Shires, and not just through the early years, but in some of the other reports today where, for instance, Joanna has some information to share around the young carers. So we take opportunities to share that at head teacher development days or through middle leadership courses. Because we are attempting to make sure that any good practice that we need to see consistently across all of our schools, we make sure that we share that in as many different ways as we possibly can.
Thank you, Sharon. Thank you for the question, Councillor Shires. It was really nice to see an excellent. I think since the regime of inspection, if that's the right way to put it, it's been changed. I think we've said, or I've said certainly, that because of the high bar now, I had said I wouldn't necessarily be surprised never to see an excellent again, and lo and behold, in the next batch of HMI inspections there is one. So I'm delighted to have been proved wrong, and it'll be really interesting actually to share in some of that good practice. But yeah, just really nice to see an excellent. So thanks very much to everybody involved there. If we can move on to number 8 in the appendix now, please, Sharon.
So the next section in this report is just a performance summary, and this is our usual inspections over time. We have made some changes to this performance summary where we had been noting performance since 2016, which was the start of the new inspection model. But we feel really that in 2023, reporting performance since 2016 is probably a bit too far away to be meaningful. So we've now redone these tables to make sure that we're showing 5 years worth of performance information. And that seems, more realistic in relation to what's happening at the moment. And you'll see from there that we are providing the benchmarking over time where we have got sufficient capacity and the number of inspections to do that. And you'll see that within early years in primary schools, we are still performing very strongly against our national comparators and the Scottish average. And within secondary schools, we have had some disappointing results in relation to the 2 weeks that Councillor Cuthbert mentioned earlier on in this meeting. These were in 2018 and 2020. They have been addressed, and therefore we continue to work very hard to make sure that we are working above the benchmark of Education Scotland and making sure that there are goods in every school. So where there are satisfactories, we continue to put action plans into place, some of which you have heard this afternoon. But in general, a strong performance in our early year settings and in our schools, but happy to take any specific questions. And we've got David McCluskey as our service manager here too, online if there are any questions specifically for secondary.
Thanks very much again, Sharon. We have a question from Noah/Caroline, please.
It's Caroline.
Thank you. Go for it.
My question, it's kind of a question / observation, Sharon, and that is when we were at Pitlochry last week, and then when I was at Rattray a couple of months ago at their meetings, there was often a lot of really good practice that had come out through the inspection process, that perhaps the head teachers were a little bit reticent's not the right word, but not the confidence to actually go out and say, you know, this is what we are really good at, and these are our real successes, and the confidence to really be happy to tell everyone what it is that they know that they're good at. It just seemed to be a little bit, I'd said to Mrs. Laney it was about she needed to get her Celebrating Success book out from the school and really do that. And then at committee last week we were talking about the validated self-evaluation process within schools, and I just wondered how these were linked up in giving schools the confidence to know they know what they know what they're good at, and having the confidence to actually share that with their peers, and then presumably as part of that process to then develop the stuff that they needed to get better at. And I just wondered how all that fitted together.
Yeah. Thank you, Councillor Shires. Yes, you're absolutely right. Head teachers are very reticent, especially in public meetings when we're talking about inspection reports. But I would have to say that we've probably talked about this several times at committee. Our Perth and Kinross teachers and leaders can sometimes be a wee bit reticent about the abilities and the capacities of their children and young people, and we see that through our HMI reports on a regular basis. Because of that, we've been working very hard strategically to be able to demonstrate what is it that's making the difference. And some of that was shared within the Education Planet Committee last week, but more of that information is certainly going to come through the PEF report and the Raising Attainment report, which will be coming to Learning and Families Committee in October. Because what we've had to put in place and put some strenuous efforts into is making sure that every school is able to track all of the interventions that they are undertaking in their schools that they think are making a difference through an improvement methodology method, and it's the Closing the Gap tool. You'll have heard about quite a lot about that, but we have been insisting consistently across all of our schools that they must use this Closing the Gap tool so that they can demonstrate what their gaps are and what interventions are making the difference. And the reason that we've asked them to do it in that particular way is that as a local authority, we can then lift that information and look at it so that we can share it more widely across all schools. So we are beginning to talk about, you were talking about Mrs. Robertson talking about the Rattray team, and we're doing a similar approach with our schools in terms of the PKC way, and we're developing an interventions mapping tool where we've looked at the interventions that are making the biggest difference, the ones that are showing the biggest improvements, and we're putting that into a mapping tool, which are the interventions that within Perth and Kinross we are promoting and supporting, so that when quality improvement officers are going out to talk to schools, they see a gap, particularly in writing, for example, then we've now got some really good evidence of interventions that we know have worked elsewhere that we then share across the piece. We have a meeting on the 12th of September where we are discussing with head teachers our data for this year and our predictions, and head teachers have an opportunity to talk together within their data families. So that's groups of schools that have a similar demography to themselves, and they share their interventions there with each other, and then we share that across the piece. So we're working really hard to make that, because it's good that there's good practice in pockets, but it's much better if it's consistently applied across the whole of the school estate. And I think we've made really good strides within that. this year, and I do think that we're at the stage now where we can say that we have some well-chosen interventions that we're promoting all schools should be looking at if they have a particular gap that they need to meet. So I hope that answers some of your question.
It does. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sharon. And if I may say at this point, I think Councillor Shires is absolutely spot on with what she says. I don't think educationists are nearly as good as politicians are at shouting about what they're really good at, but I think it's important they do so, not for any reasons of ego, but I think it is about sharing good practice, and it is about making sure that parents in the school family, if you like, are proud of what we're doing here, whilst, as we always say, accepting that there's no room for complacency, and we will watch this space in terms of the secondary school inspection diet, and as we get more and more secondary schools inspected, hopefully we'll get a clearer picture of that. So thank you very much again, everybody. I think the last item on that's about the care inspectorate in our daycare settings. So Sharon, please.
Yeah, that was the information that we shared with you, convener, around the exceptions.
Thank you.
I don't think there's another report. Yeah.
No, that's great. Thanks very much. Apologies for misreading that. And I do think, I was going to say as well, I do think the looking at it over 5 years instead of all the way back to 2016, as we've previously discussed, is absolutely the right thing to do. So I think we're done. Much appreciated, everybody. I really appreciate everybody's patience there. It wasn't ideal with the technology going down. Particularly want to thank Danny for getting it sorted for us eventually. He didn't have much here to start with, but he's got even less now. But no, thanks, Danny. It's just one of these things, and we got there. So thanks very much, everybody. Appreciate your perseverance there and your input. Thank you.